Hey everybody, it's time again to make a video about Splinterlands and one of the different teams other than fire. So I did a little poll just to make sure this is what my current watchers want, and as you can see, Splinterland guides won by a lot. So I'm going to be trying to put out more than one a week. I just got really busy again this last week. Work is interesting as I'm taking on some new challenges and going through training. And maybe one day I won't have to work another job, but my subscriber count would have to be quite a bit higher. So if you enjoy this content, you're watching my videos, please do subscribe, support the channel, maybe like these videos to spread them out to more people. But with that, we're going to go ahead and jump into the game and start talking about the water team today. So the water team is the traditional magic team within the game. And because of this, the real summoners that really help their team, as I like to talk about summoners first, are Ulrich and Valimar. So they're really the two best, and that's why they are, pound for pound, the two most expensive summoners in the game. At this point, if you're a newer player in the game, then you're not going to be leveling these up. If you're looking for competing in the higher Champion League areas, you are going to have to spend the money to get one of these cards. Now, water is not the strongest team in the game, unless you have the best cards. Then they legitimately are one of the stronger teams in the game. Really, it's because Magic has one of the best attributes in the game. It cannot miss. Now, this is finally been changed with a few newer cards, but it is only a few cards that have a special ability that allows Magic to miss them. And so, for the most part, if you're playing in any kind of mode, you can use the magic monsters and know that they're going to hit the targets. This is an extreme advantage in modes like reverse speed, because you can still play a high speed monster, and while they'll go late in the game, in the turn, they're not going to miss because of the fact that they were a high speed monster. So you can still always use your powerful mages in almost any game mode there is, except for maybe I can't even really think of a mode that really hurts mages overall. Um, they have flyers, they have healers. The team is actually overall pretty solid, and we're going to talk about that when we get into the monster cards. But just looking at these quickly, if you are on a budget, you can level up the Dice Summoner that gives you Snare. Snare is an ability that can be somewhat useful, especially in Earthquake games, to take flying away, or just in general to take flying away from monsters that would have maybe been harder for other people to hit. It's not a great advantage, but it'd be a lot easier to, say, get a level 3 one of this. As you can see, at $1.40, you can get a level 3 for under $15, a level 4 for maybe under $40, and at level 4 then you can go compete in silver. That's really, I've talked about this in the last video, and there'll be a link at the end if you haven't checked out the fire video. I talked more about the leagues, the levels you want to be at, but a quick recap: if you want to dominate bronze, your teams need to be at level 2. If you want to dominate silver, your teams need to be at level 4. And if you want to dominate gold, you need to be at level 6 across the board. You need to have at least 2 to 3 teams leveled up. Otherwise, when you try to play the games, you're going to have to forfeit a lot. And even with 2 to 3 teams leveled up, you're still going to have to forfeit every once in a while if that's what you did, because sometimes the game throws a weird match at you where you're only allowed to use 2 teams. One of the ways you could protect yourself from this is if you get a quest that has one of your teams that are leveled up, then don't complete the quest until you're ready to stop playing for the day. So my point is, get 4 wins, then start playing and use your other teams, and only use that last team when it becomes the only one available for you. That's just a little tip to be able to play enough. And usually you want to play until your capture rate is at least down in like the 70s. That way the next day it won't be all the way back up to 100, so you're not losing any of your dark energy crystal capture rate ability. And obviously you could also be someone who floats with it around 50. If you're somebody playing so much that it's down in the 30s, in the 20s, and you're getting down near 0, then you're not being as rewarded as much per match, but you're playing a lot and you are earning a little bit more. So it just depends really what your collection is. I would really try to target at least 4 teams leveled up. And I would try to target, if you have the money, probably water, earth, life, and dragon. And then if you don't want to go water, you could go fire instead. But fire, like I told you in the last video, unless you go Jotun, they're just not really powerful. Malware can be okay, but not so much in the lower levels. Only when you get to the higher levels. So let's go ahead and get more into the water team and what you need to know about them. So if you do go Bortus, now Bortus obviously his price is much higher, and we don't know what the summoners in the Chaos Legion are gonna get. But let me theorize a little bit really quick in this video what you might see in a couple months come onto the market that might dramatically change the price of some summoners. Now, in the new mode, Ulrich is not going to be playable. Zia is not going to be playable, and Valimir will not be playable. So you'll have these three summoners available to you. So the Magic team will no longer have a summoner available that gives +1 Magic. So my guess, and even though this might seem kind of silly, there will be some kind of water summoner introduced in Chaos Legion that has a +1 to Magic. And then some old OG players like me, we might not like that because that could hurt the value of our Ulrichs, right? If you can pick up a brand new one that shows up here that does this exact same thing, well, then who would pay $26 for this one when they could buy this one right here and they do the same thing within the game? Obviously, the old alpha and beta cards get some different advantages in the game when it comes to getting dark energy crystals. They'll probably have advantages when it comes to farming resources within land, but that is something that is coming. So I hope all of us are ready for it, because if you have the cards, you have to know that the new set might give people some cards that are comparable, and we've seen other card sets do that. The cards will be different names, different things, but they'll do very similar things. And when it comes to summoners, it's kind of limited what they do. I mean, we could see a kind of change to the water team and give them some more melee monsters and ranged monsters, so they get a summoner that gives +1 range or +1 health. Or they could get one that gets a minus stat. Now, in my firm belief in the game, the abilities that give your monsters 1 extra attack or 1 extra speed, or give your team 1 extra anything, are the better summoners in the game than the one that give the other team the minus. Now, the ones that give the other team a minus, when it works, when you play Bortus against somebody who's playing Magic, and then maybe you play a monster with silence, it is dominating. You will drop their entire team down to like 1 Magic attack sometimes, especially because you could even go crazy and go double summon. But then if you run into a Jotun team, all your silences and minus magic do nothing. All those ranged monsters completely destroy you. So this is why I prefer to lean towards any of the summoners that give your team an ability, because then you can shape your team for every monster on the team to play off of the fact that that summoner is giving you that ability, and that is relatively important. Okay, so I think that should basically point out that, in my opinion, this is the summoner to get if you can afford him. You can also rent the card. Let's look at the rental market. I don't rent cards very often, so I always forget how to get to the rental market. Oh, yeah, it's up here. So if you wanted to rent them, this is less than a penny a day. This one is half a penny a day. Bortus is way less than half a penny a day. So as you can see, you can still rent them, but that's renting them at level 1 to use them. That won't really help you unless you're in bronze. And unfortunately, if you click on the rental market, you're just not really seeing a lot of rentals at level 2. And this is something I think that'll start to happen as we get higher up, because when you look at the level 2 rentals, there's a few there, but there's one at 12 cents a day. And so we'll have to see. A couple people could combine some of their cards, but they're really holding on to them to try to sell them as individual cards, because that's where you get the most value, is somebody who's trying to sell their cards. The rental market needs to take time to evolve. We need more people to understand how much money they're making, and people, and then these higher level ones will start to be more competitive. I know as you go up, sometimes for level 4s, and you have to remember for the legendary and epic summoners, this would be a max level summoner. That's why it's $2 a day. But this would only be a silver summoner, and it's $2.46 a day. And you would have to rent monsters to go with them. Otherwise, there's no point in renting a higher level summoner. Okay, so now that we're done with the summoners, let's go take a look at the monsters. I'm going to put them back to level 1 for talking about them. And I just like to show you, this is the rental price per day for the level 1 cards to get an idea. But we'll go ahead and go back to card sales, because it's good for you to know what the cards have cost. One of the advantages of play to earn games is that you get to own your assets. They tend to go up in value. And if you enjoy playing the game, then you should be able to, enjoy the game. So let's talk about tanks. So tanks for the water team, there are actually more than you'd imagine on a Magic team. As you can see right here, you have two of the more expensive ones. So maybe these are out of your price range. You're not going to be looking to buy these. So what tank can fill this role on this team really well? Well, one of the cards that's actually pretty stellar at being a tank that a lot of people don't understand is Lobsterdamus, because he is a monster at level 1 who comes with a shield. Now he's slow, but his one magic attack will always hit people. And if you happen to be playing an Ulrich, he'll have 2 magic attacks, so that's pretty good. This card right here at $12 is a lot cheaper than the other cards. Right here, Frozen Soldier is an option, but he's not really good until you get him to higher levels. You really have to get him to the point that he has a little bit more HP and Magic Reflect. So if you played him here at level 5, but then you're competing up in the Gold League and you spent quite a bit of money on him, you finally get your Magic Reflect in 5 HP, and then if you can buff his HP a little more, he won't die. Because while he has a lot of armor, his life is very small. Even like say at level 3 you only have 4 HP, so a couple of monsters on the other team with magic will just kill him very quickly. So that's one thing you have to be careful of. Now let's see, what other tank options are there? So this one here is actually pretty good in reverse speed, so it makes sense to pick one of them up because he'll be an excellent tank in reverse speed. As you can see, at 1 speed, 4 attack, 4 armor, and 8 life, and void, he is almost better than the Frozen Giant, but he is actually way cheaper, and he would work in a reverse speed game just as good. The other obvious one that is also good in low games that is slower is the Sea Monster. And the Sea Monster actually is an okay tank in the beginning of the game because he has a self-heal. So if you pick one of these level 4 ones up, you get a self-heal monster with 2 speed, 9 H, and 5 HP. That is pretty good. Now, if you are going to be playing these slower tanks, it does pay off to try to have some other monsters on your team that are fast, or some cards that slow the other team down. Because if these guys are your main tank and you run into somebody who's running a tank with high speed, you're going to be in trouble. Another okay tank for the lower levels is the Serpent of Eld. Now he has lower life, so you do have to look out for magic games. So this is actually the tank that combos with Bortus. So if you're going to go the Bortus route, then you're giving the other team the minus magic and you're protecting these lower HP tanks. That's one of the one times you can use them. And then you have a level 7 who's got 3 attack, 5 life even at low level. If you level him up to compete in the Silver League, he now has 7 HP and another attack. Oh no, 7 life and HP and another attack. And so he's at 5 speed with dodge. And then if you get him up into the gold range, he starts picking up this return fire skill. Now, one of the things I'll tell you is it's very economical in this game to start off with the monsters who are in Untamed, because the Untamed monsters will allow you to go ahead and compete in the next version of Chaos Legion that comes out, and at lower levels they tend to have higher stats. See right here at level 1, this card has 3 attack. That's really good at level 1, so if you can just pick up one of these and you can compete, and he has more attack than this card here that has 2. He's got more attack than this card here that has 7. And this, like I've said before, but I'm going to mention in every one, it's very, very important to look at your attack numbers in the lower leagues. You might run into a monster with shield. You might run into a monster with void. If you run into a monster with shield or void and you're only playing monsters with 1 attack, you will not even be able to hurt that monster and you will lose. So you really have to be looking at monsters that have more than 1 attack. You want people with at least 2. So this card would be good. This card here would be good. This one at low level would not be so good. He might not even hurt anybody. And then if you look at his stats, he doesn't get a second attack until level 5. So you don't probably want to be picking up pirate archers at this point unless you're planning to get to higher level. But if we look through the board, here's a level 1 with 2 magic attack. Here's another level card with 2 magic attack. They're higher mana, so these are for higher mana matches. And then if you go down here, you have another card with 2 attack. You have this card here, the Wave Runner, which is only a quarter. And people are underestimating both of these 2 cards because at lower level games, the Sniping Narhal and the Wave Runner both start off with 2 attack very early on. And then if you get them into silver, they have 3 attack. So when you get them into level 4 to compete in silver, they actually have a good amount of attack. Now, obviously, one of them is a sniper and one of them hits the front row. So you don't necessarily want to do I've talked before, all your monsters should try to hit one position. Sometimes you can sneak in one sniper or one sneak monster if you're hoping that you actually snipe a really vulnerable mage, or you're hoping that you take out a somebody that's being hidden in the last position. But it's risky. If you end up sniping into something you can't kill, then you're not helping your other teams kill the front row, and sometimes you can fall victim to not doing enough damage to one position to kill them because they have healers on the back end. Now, when we talk about the healers on the life team, the only one that heals at the lowest level is the Castration King. So you do have to pony up the money to get one of these if you want to have a healer. Healers are very important in the game. If you have one and the other team does not, it usually can have you win the game, depending on if your healer is able to go. There is one other healer on the team, but it doesn't kick in until higher levels. But at higher levels, if you're going to be competing, it's much less money to get yourself an albatross, but you do have to push him all the way up to level 6 to heal. So he is not a healer unless you're competing in the Gold League or the Diamond League or the Champion League. If you're in those leagues, you do want to have a leveled up albatross. Now, one of the things I want to kind of highlight here for anybody that's new to the game is if you take away the alpha, beta, and promo cards, you're going to see cards that are much more affordable, and you can still get a pretty good team with these cards. This is what would be available to you if you're looking at the cards that players got for free or the cards that players got in the newer set that just came out, that just sold out recently. Now, they're not super cheap anymore. Splinterlands is just not super cheap, sorry to tell you. But you could get a pretty good team here, where if you played Bortus as your summoner, right, that's a decent amount of money. You could look into doing a Wave Runner with behind a Serpent of Eld, so you have 3 attack at the front position, 2 more attack at the front position. Then you could go ahead and pick up 1 giant squid. Now, he's only got 1 speed, so that's a little bit of a bummer, but he does attack 2 at the front position. So if you're willing to spend a little bit more money, it's better to pick up these cards here with the 2 magic attack. Now, this one has 2 magic attack, but it's sneak, so this is one of the cards that you can only play if you specifically want, to hit the sneak monsters. I don't think you really need that. Then you go ahead and pick up this one here, and the Harpoonist. And maybe if you've got the money, though this is pretty expensive at $97, so maybe we just go ahead and rent the legendary card to have him on your team. So you have that big monster for the high mana matches with 3 attack. But now you can put 3 attack plus 3 attack here. Go down here. You got 2 attack here, and 3 attack from this one, and 2 attack from this one. So you can see now I've got a team that can really go ahead and target the first position and hit them hard. I've got a mage that is going to lower the magic attack to keep my serpent alive, and it's going to be a competitive team. Now, what happens as you play the game? Maybe you want to add a couple extra cards. You could add this one here. It's a very good card at higher levels. Maybe, and like I said, the giant squid is not that good, but he's cheap. So if you're going to push for a card for silver, you can go ahead and pick up this one, because at higher levels, he gets a little bit more speed. So as you can see here, once you get him to 4 for the upper league of silver, he has 2 speed, so he'll miss a little bit less often. And then if you get him to level 6, he has 3 speed, which makes it a lot harder for him to miss. He does pick up blind at level 4, so if you're playing him in silver, he might make the other team miss. Misses are very important in the game. When people miss, it can cost them a match, especially if they miss multiple times. So when you can combine this at higher level blind with a Serpent of Eld who at higher level, who has dodge the whole time, and at higher level it gets even faster. So you got a tank who's fast and dodging, and the other team is blinded, so you're going to have a chance that they're going to miss. Now, the caveat to that, magic is a problem, but that's where Bortus steps in. So Bortus ends up helping you so that the magic people don't do too much damage. Now, in the lower levels, it can be really effective, that team. Now, if you run into a team of Jotuns with a whole bunch of really strong archers, you're going to be in trouble unless they miss. And that's going to be the way that you try to win, is hopefully they miss your Serpent of Eld. Now, some of the other interesting cards that you can get that are nice to have for this team is the Kelp Initiative, because he does become a healer at higher levels of your back row monsters, and he picks up cleanse very early on. But the big thing he is 2 HP for 6 health here, or 6 health here. So put him at level 2 or level 4. Kind of try to skip level 3 where he loses an HP. He loses the HP here because he picks up his ability. But, you know, if you can spend the money, go ahead and push him here to level 4. And then what you can do is you can put the Kelp initiative in the first spot that would be hit by sniper fire. So you'll have a guy sitting there who will cleanse your tank, and only for 2 HP, he will take fire from any of the other team snipers, which is allowing any of your back row mages to stay alive and not get sniped, because they're busy sniping the Kelp initiative. And then when the Kelp initiative dies, it's not really a problem for you. And let's say they don't play any snipers. Well, then what it does is this becomes a secondary tank on your team, to where if you were to play Serpent of Eld, followed up by a Wave Runner, followed up by a Kelp initiative, they would have to kill this monster, and this monster in your front row position before all the people that you have behind them would be vulnerable to anybody attacking in the front row position. So it's a very nice card for that. Now, one thing I'm going to do this time that I didn't do last time is I'm going to go ahead and throw the neutral monsters into the board. And we're going to talk about some of the ones from this same team that you could look to add that would really help augment this team. A Creeping Ooze is worth picking up. He gives -1 speed for 1 mana, and that can be a big difference maker in this game. So if you have 1 extra mana in place, you can either put him in the last position to be a monster that would take a hit from a sneak. You can hide him as a target for sniper behind the Kelp initiative, or you could just put him... I mean, you want to keep this -1 speed, so you don't usually want to sacrifice him in the front row. You do that if you buy a chicken, but chickens are pretty expensive, but they do give you an advantage of basically you being able to put this monster in a spot. You just want it at level 1 because then it can be a sniper target, a front row sacrifice, or a sneak monster sacrifice. You can pick the position. It'll be up to you. In the neutral team, obviously, since you're looking for monsters at low levels that have more than 1 attack, here's one that you could put with your sniping Narthal if you wanted to go a snipe team. So now you could have 2 attackers with 2 attack on the snipe. So this one's one to pick up if you want to go ahead and play that combo sometimes and be able to do a sniper team. Well, let's see, who else? Let's go ahead and get rid of the water team for a little bit and look at the neutrals. So right now I'm just looking at the neutrals that are playable for the rewards in Untamed. You can also add in dice ones if you want, because the dice ones are good ones to purchase as they're usable in the next set. Right here, this one right here, the Grenadier is a 3 cost with 2 attacks, so that's a nice card to have on your team. Low HP, so you got to watch out that he doesn't get sniped. You don't want to put him in a position he'd be the first sniper. A great card to throw on your team for high mana matches is the Sandworm, and he is even really good if you get him to higher levels, because once you get him to higher levels, he has 4 speed. So if you actually put together a level 8 of one of these, because you're competing in the champion leagues, now he's got 4 speed. He's got a good chance to not miss. He's got 6 attack. He's got 7 HP, so he doesn't die fast. He is a high mana monster, so it's just one you throw on your team so that you can have a nice card to throw out in the high mana matches. Another card like that's not bad to have on any team is the Goblin Mech. Now for the Magic team, if you have an Aldrich, then this card here, the Prismatic Energy and the Tortoise Chief and the Spirit Miner are really good cards. Now the Spirit Miner is pretty expensive, so that you might want to look into renting him. You can rent any legendary cards as a way to put them on your team, but these with Aldrich would all attack very, very hard. But if not, you could rent a Cornelius. He's also a high mana monster that would be good to put on your team if you're running Bortus, because his 2 ranged attack would always be landing blows even on shielded monsters. I think that's kind of it. Oh, right here, this is a real cheap one that gives you an extra attacker that'll attack the front row and attacks for at least 2. So Goblin Chariot's not a bad one to have. And then you'll have a really good team put together that can attack the front row. Now, if you want to make a sniper team, you want to make a sneak team, you saw the Sneaking Mage, you combined it with a Sandworm, and then honestly, you're going to have to go into beta to get another sneak monster, and that's the Elven Cutthroat. Let me see here she is. And then what you do is you combine the 3 sneak monsters with, let's go ahead and throw the water team back on the board. Where is he? With the feasting seaweed, who has opportunity. So you go sneak, 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 opportunity. They're going to attack the back row. Anybody they leave behind that isn't quite dead, the feasting seaweed comes and hits them and kills them at the back row. But that's a more expensive team to build. They're more unique, but it is a fun thing to do if you're someone who's just going to go ahead and work on collecting all of the cards. That's one of the other options you could get. They don't really have a spectacular sniping team, but you do know that that you can. Now, if money's not an object for you and you're coming into this game and you're like, I'm just going to buy everything, then obviously the way to go is Valimor with the big mages. You're going to level them all up, and you're just going to do the same kind of thing where mages dominantly attack the front position, but they're going to do it with just giant mage attacks. And this card, you get an Ice Pixie for if you just have a few mana left, and then you're going to go back and you're going to go into the other cards and just make sure that you're just dominating with the different mages. All right, guys. So I think that's kind of a basic overview. Oh, yeah. Don't forget about Poseidon. He is a little bit more expensive, but he would be another card you could throw in the board at 9 mana in your last position with a shield, so sneak monsters would have a hard time killing him, and he'll hit really hard on the front row and help you win those games. Now, again, with any of these cards that are $100 per card, if they're and they're legendary, since we'll just talk about this really quick. Go to battle and go to leagues. If you look at bronze, legendaries are only level 1. So you can go all the way through all of bronze with the legendary just at level 1, and you're still playing it at the highest level. Now in silver, they're at level 2, but that's only 1 level higher than you, so you can either try to rent a level 2, or you can just throw your level 1 on the board, and if the other guy doesn't have the legendary card, it's not going to matter because you're gonna have a guy on the board that just gives you a huge advantage. Okay, guys, once again, I'm looking for any critiques on this that you want. Let me know how you're doing. As you can see, I'm currently hanging out in Diamond 1. It's been harder to move up right now. I know there's some issues on the server. We're not able to play, just play. There's some delays, and that's kind of problematic. And, you know, overall, the crypto world, things are kind of cool because prices are up, but we have some pending litigation and a bill in the United States that could make things a little dicey for us to be in crypto and have to follow some new rules. So hopefully, you know, things keep going up. The Splinterlands keeps growing. The player base has gotten huge. They're able to, you know, get some more servers spun up and get this system back to where we can play as much as we want, and we can all just enjoy the game. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.